Chapter 1. The Quiet Power of Perspective. Seth Klarman, the famous value investor, opens his mind with a simple truth. The market itself is not a compass, but a river that can carry you far from your intended destination if you let it. In his early years at a small university, he learned to observe market fluctuations like a scientist studying a stream. He noticed that investors who rushed, chasing short-term gains, often ended up at the bottom of the river, while those who paced patiently stayed afloat and steady. This story of the river becomes a metaphor for wisdom and leadership. If you cannot think of a price you would pay, you cannot think of a price you would accept for a trade, Klarman once stated. This idea teaches leaders to set clear thresholds for action, not to be swayed by noise. He also noted that the best leaders learn from failures as much as from successes, saying, "The market will almost always surprise you." Humility in the face of uncertainty is a cornerstone of wise leadership. Motivational insight. Wisdom is not just about knowing the right answer, it is about asking the right questions. Leaders who wonder, what if the market turns upside down? Or, when will this risk surface? Stay alert and act before crisis strikes. Concrete example, create a margin of safety checklist for every major decision. Write down the best case outcome, the worst case outcome, and the probability of each. Keep a margin larger than the expected loss, just as Klarman does with his investment funds. When the market behaves unpredictably, you have a built-in buffer that preserves your leadership stance. Conclusion. The quiet power of an informed perspective guards against impulsive action and empowers leaders to guide through uncertainty. Remember that wisdom flows from observation, humility, and the deliberate setting of safety margins. If you're enjoying this, like, share, subscribe, follow for more wisdom and leadership. Reflective question for Chapter 1. How often do you pause to evaluate the wider context before making a decision, and what safety margin are you willing to build into that pause? Chapter 2. Principle of the Patient Compass. In the world of investing, Klarman discovered that patience is a strategic tool, not a passive attribute. He famously compared the investor's horizon to a long-term navigation plan, citing that the only thing as consistent as the market's volatility is its unpredictability. Patience, therefore, becomes a compass pointing beyond the turbulence. He once described a trade that took over a decade to yield the expected results. Many investors had abandoned it after early setbacks, but Klarman's patience allowed the investment to mature, proving that a disciplined, long-term stance often outperforms a short-term chase. Likewise, leaders who wait until the right opportunity aligns with their values avoid costly missteps. Motivational insight. Patience allows you to wait for those rare moments when wisdom and opportunity converge. It trains you to differentiate between market noise and real signals, a critical skill for making wise decisions under pressure. Concrete example. Schedule a personal review day once every 30 days. On that day, revisit all ongoing projects, evaluate their alignment with your long-term mission, and adjust only if the evidence indicates a fundamental shift. This intentional pause echoes Klarman's disciplined pacing and protects leaders from reactive spurts. Conclusion. The patient compass keeps you focused on purpose and insulated from fleeting market moods. Patience, coupled with deliberate observation, turns uncertainty into calculated direction. If you're enjoying this, like, share, subscribe, follow for more wisdom and leadership. Reflective question for Chapter 2. When was the last time you committed to a decision for the long term, and what signals guided you to stay the course? Chapter 3. Margin of Safety as Leadership Armor. Klarman's book, Margin of Safety, is a masterclass in protecting oneself against overconfidence and market shocks. He explains that a good investment is not only about where the price moves, but how much protection it affords you when the market turns against you. This concept translates directly into leadership practice. He once noted, "You will miss the next great opportunity if you are too eager to seize the next one." By maintaining a buffer, whether in finances, resources, or time, leaders avoid being trapped by unforeseen events. Klarman's own firm always reserves about 20% of capital for emergencies, a practice that has kept his firm resilient during crises. Motivational insight. A well-prepared leader guards against failure, inspiring confidence in their team. The margin of safety ensures that decisions made today are not made because tomorrow's market may change. Concrete example: apply a margin of safety to a project's budget by allocating an extra 15–20% for contingencies. Beyond finance, ensure you have backup leadership paths so that one person's absence does not jeopardize a project. If a key employee leaves, have a succession plan ready so that the momentum continues. Conclusion: arm yourself with buffers. Just as Klarman protects his investments, protect your teams and missions. The margin of safety turns risk into manageable stepping stones, allowing you to lead with confidence. If you're enjoying this, like, share, subscribe, follow for more wisdom and leadership. Reflective question for Chapter 3. What are the hidden risks you have not yet accounted for in your current projects, and how can you build a safety margin to mitigate them? Chapter 4. Humility and Judgment, a Leader's Compass. Klarman consistently reminds us that ignorance is a luxury no successful leader can afford. He once said, "If you cannot think of a price you would pay, you cannot think of a price you would accept." This humility shapes his investment style, and it is equally vital for leaders in any field. By acknowledging what you don't know, you invite feedback and alternative viewpoints. Klarman's team routinely meets with external specialists, welcoming criticism that often alters their strategies for the better. A humble leader creates an environment where challenges are discussed openly and solutions emerge from collective insight. Motivational insight. Humility dispels the illusion of certainty, keeping your leadership flexible and growth-oriented. It is the lens through which you can view new data without bias. Concrete example: set up a weekly learning lunch where team members present a recent market trend or business case. Then, as a leader, openly discuss what you agree or disagree with, admitting gaps in your knowledge. This practice keeps your team engaged and encourages continuous learning, mirroring Klarman's own curiosity. Conclusion: humility is not a weakness but a strategic asset. It invites growth, fosters collaboration, and protects against strategic blind spots. Let your curiosity guide you, just as Klarman lets the market guide his decisions. If you're enjoying this, like, share, subscribe, follow for more wisdom and leadership. Reflective question for Chapter 4. In what ways have you recently sought external viewpoints, and how did they alter your decision-making process? Chapter 5. Legacy of Disciplined Decision-Making. The final chapter explores how Klarman's disciplined approach to decision-making forms the backbone of his leadership legacy. He lives by a rule that decisions should be based on concrete data rather than emotional impulses. His book emphasizes that the best way to decide is to consider the worst-case scenario and the best-case scenario, and then decide whether the trade is worth the risk. This discipline method applies to personal growth, too. For instance, if you want to start a side business, examine your resources, estimate realistic returns, and decide whether the potential risk is justified. By sticking to the disciplined rule, you avoid the trap of optimism bias and keep your actions aligned with your core values. Motivational insight. Disciplined decision-making turns an unpredictable world into a manageable series of choices. It builds trust with stakeholders because they know you weigh every factor carefully. Concrete example: implement a decision journal. Each time you face a significant choice, record the facts, the potential gains, the potential losses, and the rationale for your choice. Review this journal monthly. The pattern will reveal how often you stray from discipline and guide you back on track. The process mirrors Klarman's disciplined trading: data first, emotion second, outcome later. Conclusion: the disciplined decision framework is a leader's compass. When combined with patience, safety margins, and humility, it creates an unshakable foundation for success. If you're enjoying this, like, share, subscribe, follow for more wisdom and leadership. Reflective question for Chapter 5. How can you embed disciplined decision rules into your daily routine to ensure that your actions remain aligned with long-term wisdom?